All right, so welcome everybody. We're going to get started here. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we begin, and then hand it over to Lori for the town hall itself. So we are doing this in a new way again because we have spent 2 years doing everything in new ways every 6 months. So that is a joyful part of church life in the 2020s. So what we are doing right now is we simultaneously have a live stream in person here in this room. We also have folks watching on our YouTube channel, folks who are unable to participate in person. So when we get to the point of questions, I and probably Jean will be monitoring the questions that come in via that chat and then repeating them into this room, much like we do Joys and Sorrows. In addition, our treasurer, Teresa Forsman, is unable to be here this morning. So she's prepared a video presentation where she'll walk through the budget. I believe she's present in the chat room, so if there's questions, we'll try and relay her answers or answer it with the folks that we have in the room. Other than that, just as a reminder, the town halls are an opportunity to answer questions in advance of the congregational meeting. So 2 weeks from now, there will be a meeting where you all vote on the budget and a couple other things. And because congregational meetings that go 4 hours long are sad for everybody, we hold town halls in advance to answer questions and cover things prior to that meeting. So that's what the purpose of today is. We'll also have some time for Q&A. I think that's a little bit more free-flowing. But with that, I will hand it over to Lori.
Well, good morning, everyone. So for those of you who don't know, I am Lori Stratman, and I am president of the Board of Trustees for you right now. So we're going to go ahead and get this town hall started. The first thing that I would like to do, because it is our big thing for our winter congregation, is to talk about the proposed budget. We'll be voting on that during our winter congregational meeting. So if we have Teresa's video ready to go, let's go ahead and get that started.
Good morning. The 2022 budget that the Board of Trustees is recommending to the congregation is $479,317. This represents an increase of just under 6% compared with the 2021 budget. This is basically the rate of inflation that we've been seeing in the headlines for the last few months. We have notable increases in our health insurance, dental insurance, and like most people in the congregation, we're going to see higher heating bills this winter. On the income side, I'm really happy to report that in the fourth quarter of 2021, we've had robust pledge and donation payments, which, along with our earlier Paycheck Protection Program grant, has pushed our 2021 income past 100% of budget. So, congratulations to us. This small windfall, combined with some lower than expected expenses for 21, because we were out of the building, expenses for such things as childcare and some of our fellowship programs that happen in the church, those were lower for 2021. So the combination of a little more income than expected and lower expenses than expected means that we expect to end this current year with a surplus, approximately $50,000. So congratulations again to us. The 2022 budget includes approximately $20,000 of this surplus on the income side. Our pledges and attributable donations in the budget for 2022 are approximately the same as for 2021. I wanted to let you know that there's one line, EO 9145, in the budget for $1,006. It represents a transitional salary for administrative director. It covers the extra 5 hours a week that our member admin coordinator will be working from April 1st through June 30th to cover the sabbatical for our administrative director. Any discussion of our 2022 budget really needs to mention Bruce Raymer, who offered a $10,000 matching donation in the last days of the pledge campaign to help encourage our members to raise their pledges. And I'm happy to report that our congregation earned that $10,000. Thank you to Bruce. Thank you to all of our members who are helping our church get where we want to go in the coming year. If anyone has any questions about the budget, I am more than happy to talk about it. Just reach out to me by email or phone, and I'd be glad to talk about the budget. Thank you.
All right. So we have some things to celebrate and some things that we just need to be really cautious on with this upcoming budget. Like Teresa said, we did have some surplus for the 2021 year. That is primarily because we had help with the payroll protection program. We cannot anticipate getting that again for 2022. So that's why we're going to have a bit of a shortfall that we're using that surplus from this year to cover. I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions. Yes, Alan.
What is an attributable donation? It looks like it's a big jump from the 3-year average. What does that mean?
Okay, so Alan is asking what is an attributable donation and why the big jump over the 3 year. And I'm going to have, if Teresa is in the chat, I'm going to have her outline what an attributable donation is so that I don't express it inaccurately.
Is there anyone who would like a copy of the budget? Is it currently? I have.
Jean doesn't currently have one. I think I can answer this. Okay.
She can answer the question. Go ahead.
Okay. So it has a pretty straightforward answer. Attributable donations are, in this context, mostly all of the one-time donations from our pledge drive. So for the last 2 years, this may be the 3rd year, in addition to asking folks if they are what they're pledging, we also ask if they'll consider a one-time donation. When that money comes in, it goes into that line. So that's why it's gone up, is that the 3-year average has gone up, is because we have not been doing that until fairly recently. There is a question in the chat as to whether or not we can get these documents online so that folks participating in the chat can see them. So Jean is nodding, so if we don't have them up right now, we'll have them up before the next town hall so that you can look at them.
Yes, we can take questions on the expense side. I would like to take Kathy's question real quick, and then we'll come back to you, Alan.
If the surplus from 2021 is roughly $50,000 and we're moving $20,000 to 2022, what's happening with the rest of it?
Okay, so Kathy is asking if our surplus was roughly $50,000 for this year, we're only moving approximately $20,000 to next year's budget as income, what happens to the remainder? And that, I believe, we determined would go into our reserves.
Thank you.
And then, Alan, you had a question about expenses?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about UUA dues. I understand that's proportional to membership. And so I wanted, it's sort of a two-part question. One is, what are the dues per member? And what has happened with our membership over these two pandemic years?
Okay, so Alan is asking about the UUA dues and what the cost per congregant is for those dues, and then what has been our membership numbers for the past 2 years. Oscar, do you have that information by any chance?
Not off the top of my head. If you divide the number that's in the budget by 320, you get the average dues per member. I'm not sure that it's a strict one. I'm not sure that the formula is as straightforward as this is the cost per member. I think it is a formula that is based mostly on the number of members that you have, but varies a little bit beyond that. As far as during the pandemic, we report those numbers in January, so we don't have the final 2021 numbers. I can tell you that the number that we reported to the UUA in January of 2021 was in the neighborhood of 320. We did not see a drop in formal membership during the pandemic. Now, there is a broader question of what our membership looks like right now, but we'll know more about that when we certify our membership to the UUA in a couple months. Usually the sequence is that we go through the pledge drive, then we get to January and say, all right, what do our membership rolls look like at the end of the year?
Kathy?
The tennis match, I guess. Can you explain miscellaneous refunds?
So Kathy is asking about miscellaneous refunds. And
It is line 25341537 on the front page.
It's pretty much what it sounds like. Every year there's a couple things that Jean, you might be able to explain this one better than I, but where we have health insurance overpayment at the end of one year that comes back as a refund the following year, and
A refund from our insurance for not using workman's compensation is, every year we get that.
yeah, so a refund for not using workers' compensation. Yeah.
Thank you.
any other questions? Anything in our chat, Oscar?
No, just questions about viewing the budget online. So we'll
Okay, it looks like Alan has another question.
I'm disappointed to see that we don't expect any income from our solar meter. Is it gone away?
That's not an income, that was never an income line, it was just used as a pass-through for people to pay in money, and then we paid it to LES. So we aren't receiving money back from the solar, that for a couple of years was just used as a pass-through, right?
Yep.
We bought solar
does the income or the reduced expense from our solar panels show up in this document anywhere?
I believe it shows up as less utility costs.
So I'm just going to backtrack a little bit
Sure.
for the folks that are joining us live stream. Alan had asked about the solar net metering line and was concerned that we were not seeing any money coming back from the use of our solar panels. That is actually allowing for a pass-through at the time that we were purchasing those panels. It's not reflecting the reduction in our energy costs. That is taken care of in the utilities lines. Anything else? Great questions.
Right. Sorry. Thanks. Right, so back to the question about UUA dues, I forgot that this had happened. Last year, the UUA actually changed its formula. It is no longer based on membership. UUA dues are now 6.75% of operating budget from year to year. That was a thing that was about a decade in the making, and I forgot that it had actually happened last year. For churches our size, it works out about the same. There's very little change.
Thank you for that. Okay, last call for questions on the budget. Going once? Going twice? Nothing in the chat?
Nope.
All right. Good discussion on the budget. Thank you all. The next thing that we'll be voting on at the winter congregational meeting is a change in title for Oscar. So as Oscar had mentioned earlier today in the service, he's been with us going on 5, 6 years now, 5, and is no longer a novice. And in fact, if my understanding is correct, he is the senior minister in Nebraska for UU churches. So, the thought is that a change in title would be appropriate at this time. Change in title does not necessarily mean a change in salary or midpoint in this case, because right now he is a solo minister, and we would be proposing to move him to senior minister, which is in the same bracket that the UUA provides us. But it does carry some clout with it, right? Are there any questions about the proposal to change Oscar's title to senior minister? Jean?
Are there other reasons for the change other than just the time frame that he's been on staff?
Jean wants to know if there are other reasons for this title change other than his time and grade. There are actually. Oscar has brought us in and going through this pandemic with some amazing things happening. He is, what is the title for the Interfaith? Are you director, chair? President of the Interfaith Coalition, representing us there. He has been instrumental in getting our live stream up and running so that our congregation can safely meet for our Sunday services and meetings. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that I'm just forgetting because I didn't write them down. Jean might have a few others.
I just wanted to know, does it also relate to the potential future of having intern ministers? Does it help provide that clarity?
Thank you, Jean, yes. So Jean wanted to know if that had to do with the potential of having intern ministers in the future, and it does. A senior minister can have an intern, and that is something that prior to the pandemic had been on our strategic plan. In fact, I believe it was this year or next year that we were supposed to have an intern according to our plan, and well, the world went sideways, right? But as a senior minister, he would have the opportunity to take on an intern when we are ready to be able to fund that. Yes?
Does the change bring with it additional responsibilities either to the state of Nebraska or to our region or district?
The question is, does the change bring additional responsibilities to our congregation or even within Nebraska? And that I'm going to throw over to Oscar because he knows more about the components of that than I do.
Sure. So the short answer is it's no. The more complicated answer is that the title that this congregation votes on is simply my title while I'm here. One of the components of this is that in the last year and a half, I've moved from preliminary fellowship in the UUA to full fellowship, it's now called, at the UUA, which means that unlike when I started here, I can now serve on national boards and committees at the UUA level. I have not been asked, nor have I volunteered for any of those roles yet, but theoretically I'm now senior enough in the denomination to take those roles. Now, that will be the case whatever my title is at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, but that's sort of one of the pieces that's changed over the last 5 years. Does that answer your question?
Any other questions about this? Anything on the chat, Oscar?
Nope.
So the proposal is to take his current title of minister and just add senior minister, is that correct?
So Wendy is asking if we're just tacking on senior to Oscar's title as minister. And essentially, yes. Mhm. Kate?
Just wondering if there are precedents for this with previous ministers, did they have a title change over their tenure?
So Kate is asking if there is a precedence for changing ministerial titles over the tenure of a minister's time with us. And I honestly don't know.
I don't know in Lincoln. Broadly, yes, sort of in the broader UUA world. This is if you look at folks in final fellowship who have been serving their congregations for a couple of years, usually this is the title that they have, but I don't know what the history here is.
Anything else? Anything in the chat, Oscar?
There is, I'll say this out loud and I'll type it in the chat. There's some frustration and confusion in the chat that this started at 11 instead of 11:30 that was in the e-blast. I do apologize for that confusion. It sounds like there's maybe some folks in the chat who want to ask questions about the budget. So I'm going to suggest that
Sure. We can
we
definitely
go back and sort of allow those questions to come up if needed.
Absolutely.
And I will type that in the chat as well, so that's what I'll be doing over in the corner on my phone.
And this is something that we have learned, is that you never schedule a town hall the weekend right after Thanksgiving, because things get a little messy.
Also, it's the first time we're trying to do this.
Yes, and Jean points out that this is the first time that we are attempting to do this as a multi-platform forum, so it's interesting. Kathy?
Are there other items that will be on the agenda of the congregational meeting that we can talk about while questions are here?
Actually, those are the two items that we have so far. Now, I do want to let you know that I spoke with Mary Kay last night regarding the nominations committee. They believe they will have a candidate to nominate for the nominations committee. They did not have the name readily available for me last night, but we should be able to discuss that at the next town hall. So there will be a candidate for the nominations committee that will be coming up. Unfortunately, we just don't have that name yet. So I see that Oscar has gotten the chat typed in, and hopefully we've got some budget questions coming in through the chat.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Michael Stratman thanks us for the attempt at the hybrid meeting. I think that online is an important component.
Thank you, Michael.
There's a question from Harry.
Harry asks, is this a change in how ministers are viewed by having one have a senior title, previously none have? I can't speak for Lincoln, but I can speak for general practice in the UUA, that this is not uncommon. So for instance, if you look at Des Moines, Kansas City, Shawnee Mission, those are our most similar churches. So look on their websites and look up their staff structure if you're looking for points of comparison. Harry asks, is it feasible to do this as a Zoom, mute everybody's mic, but they would still ask questions in the chat? We're gonna figure out different ways of doing this because we had a little bit of a change last night. So this we may change formats by the next time we do one of these.
Yes, and I would encourage everyone to look for their e-blasts this week so that you know what's happening with the next town hall. Adaptability is very important.
All right.
Well, I am not seeing any other hands going up here. Anything in the chat, Oscar, that we need to address?
No questions in the chat.
No questions in the chat? Okay. So, like I said, watch the e-blasts that are coming out to know when the next town hall actually will be and how it will be. And have a beautiful afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
And for AV back there, can we leave the stream running for a little bit, just in case anybody has questions? I'll stick around on the chat to answer those questions if there are any. said the three of us, or Teresa did, there's not gonna be a whole lot of
Right,
answerable questions.
yeah. Well, this is one of the reasons I was trying to figure out if there was a way, and I could make myself available to be on Sunday morning if necessary. You know.
Well, and potentially I could be back in time.
For me, it just means not going to church somewhere else on Sunday morning.
If we do, the other piece is, if next Sunday is just fully on Zoom, we confirm what time Arnie has the service, so I could set up and the person will be there.
Yeah, same.
Well, let's noodle through that tomorrow after
That
we
sounds good.
talk about it.
All right.
Thanks, John, for everything.
Yeah. I'll, collect the budgets, and I guess, do you think it's good enough